Welcome to the Tuesday edition of One's World, and today is the last day of the water festival in Phnom Penh, known in Khmer as touk. And this is probably the biggest festival of the year, bigger than Cambodian New Year even. And people come in from all the provinces to see various things, including boat races, but also fireworks and just a whole carnival atmosphere in general. So I'm going to break the video into two parts. This part I'm going to talk about the boat races. They're called dragon boats informally, and dragon boat races are very common throughout Asia. So that's like one part. And then on Friday I'm going to show you the evening festivities, particularly the fireworks, but also lighted boats that float on the Tonle Sap River. So let's get started. Now, this festival has stories associated with its origins, which may or may not be true, but there are some important factors, and one of them is that these races take place on the Tonle Sap River, which is unique in that it flows one way half the year and the other way the other half of the year. It's because of a particular circumstance. The Tonle Sap River connects Tonle Sap Lake in the north with the Mekong Delta in the south. And the Tonle Sap Lake, during the dry season, has portions where you can actually walk around. There are villages where in the dry season there are roads that you can walk along, and there are schools that meet in the bottom parts of houses, and cooking can take place in them and so forth. And then when the monsoon hits, then the lake starts filling up with water and you can't walk around the villages anymore. You have to have a boat to get from house to house. And when eventually the Tonle Sap Lake level rises higher than the Mekong Delta, then the Tonle Sap River flows from the lake to the delta. When in the dry season the lake is lower than the Mekong Delta, then the river flows from the Mekong Delta to the lake. So touk theoretically marks the passage from south to north to south. But it's also the end of the rice harvest, or at least traditional, that nowadays Southeast Asian communities may harvest rice twice or even three times a year, depending on the kind of rice they grow. But this is, in a sense, a harvest festival. And it's also partly related to a 16th century naval battle that took place on the Tonle Sap Lake. And I've got some images here that I took earlier this year from Bayon Temple in Angkor of the famous naval battle. And apparently the Khmer Empire was successful, and theoretically the races started because of that, but that's probably just nonsense. The French did note in the colonial period, that's in the 19th century, that there were dragon boat races at that time. So we know that they go back that far. How much further back, we don't know. Now, the the boat races take place around the full moon. And using the Khmer lunar calendar, it's the full moon in the month of Kadiuk, which is the harvest month. So you might think of it as harvest moon in your American tradition. So its date fluctuates all over the place. It can be in early November, or this year it's in very late November, which is unusual. It can even be in late October sometimes, but usually it's somewhere close to the beginning of November. And these races have not happened for 4 years because of COVID. Even last year, when COVID was definitely over, the Prime Minister cancelled the festivities, and they just got reinstated this year. So I took a hotel down by the river so I could watch the races, and in the evenings I could watch the fireworks and the lighted boats. Now, I paid particular attention to one group purely because they wear dark blue. Dark blue is the racing color of Oxford University, and so they feel like my friends, if you like. So here they are, and each dragon boat is sponsored by a particular pagoda, and there are elimination races earlier in the year because pagodas from all over the country compete in these races. So they have elimination races, first of all, in the home territory, and then the winners of that come down to Phnom Penh to compete in the finals. And this particular group, as it happens, comes from Phnom Penh. They come from a pagoda called Niak Wan, which is a big pagoda in Phnom Penh and pretty rich. One of the things I haven't mentioned in past videos is that the pagodas vary in their social status and their importance and their money. And this one happens to have a lot of money, a lot of rich backers. And the boat itself has the names of the backers in the stern, and the members of the team all have the name of the team on their T-shirts, on the back of their T-shirts. And this group were interesting to me. I walked up to the starting point, which is a river that bridge that crosses the river Tonle Sap, and they were encamped on the bank close to the bridge, which is the starting point for the races. And they had a kitchen set up, and they had a fire there where they're doing a bunch of things, including some metal work, as it happens at one point. And periodically they all got in the boat and they just practiced starts and practiced fast rowing and all that kind of thing. Then they got back to the bank and got out and had a drink and chit-chat or whatever, and then back in the boat and more practice. And they seem like a very strong team each year. I've watched them not just this year, but in the previous 2 years I was here when the festivities ran. There are a lot of times when the festivities are cancelled. They didn't happen all the time that both Pol Pot and Lon Nol were in charge of Cambodia, and they weren't reinstituted until well after the Civil War. And then after that, there were times when they were cancelled one year because they coincided with elections, another year because it was a fatality where the bridge was overloaded with people and there was a big stampede, and I think about 157 people died, and so they cancelled it the next year and instituted all kinds of policies And now you won't necessarily always notice this, but if you walk around, you will. There's a lot of soldiers and a lot of police around, and they're not just, hands in their pockets. Many of them are carrying very high-powered automatic rifles. They're moving in groups, so they're keeping the peace. And also the bridges that were fatal in the past have all been replaced with stronger ones. So you've got the races going on, and the races, you'll also see them on television. But they don't broadcast them live, which is a bit unfortunate, because if I'm in my hotel room and I'm thinking, maybe I'll go out and take some videos, and then I go out and find out that they're replaying some really tight race and that there's nothing going on. So the races are divided into classes depending on the size of the boat. The biggest ones have something like 70 rowers in them, but there are smaller ones going down to about 20. And on the first day is what's called the Royal Boat Race, and the king is in attendance, and here's his viewing stand, and there are hundreds of security agents. They don't look like police or soldiers, but they are security. They're all wearing black suits, but they have a lanyard around their neck with their ID on it, and they are wall to wall all around where the king is in attendance. He's not in attendance very much. The first day, there's a particular time when he comes, and then you can't even approach the road when he's crossing it. You just have to wait until he gets across in a car. And the races are sporadic, but they go on for 3 days. There are elimination heats in the first few days, and then the finals on the third day, which is today, this year. And there's not a tremendous amount of public interest, I have to say. There's a shot here of Sisawat Key, which is the viewing point for the ending, and there's a few people in attendance, but not a lot. But in the evening, it's a different story. In the evening, it is jam-packed, solid, wall-to-wall people. You can barely move. And when I took my videos, which you'll see on Friday, I had to leave 2 hours ahead of time in order to get to the spot where I wanted to be. I've been coming for many years, so I know where the best places are to view from. Everyone wants to be absolutely bang opposite the hotel where the fireworks go off, but you only have to go down about 200 meters, and you can still see it perfectly clearly, and there's practically no one there. So that's what I did this year. So we'll see the fireworks and the lighted boats next time. So for the moment, if you like my videos, please like, please subscribe, please tell your friends, and I will be back on Friday with a ton of fireworks and lighted boats. Have a good week.